Wow. Down to one person watching. Anyway.
That's just because I clicked onto another tab momentarily.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so this is now on Rebecca's channel, her evolution thing. It's in the description, number 16. I started having a conversation with somebody named CBrown 684. It's pinned at the top. The comments are, Rebecca pinned his comment. And he seemed fairly knowledgeable on the architecture of the genome and stuff. And we had a good talk. And it turns out he's CBrown, who I've talked to before. And so I had him on. We had a conversation privately, and we recorded it on Zoom. And Zoom, even though it was showing me my screen, did not record my screen. So what I did is I broke this video up into parts, and the first part is only 8.5 minutes long. And I wanted to play that because I think there's some significant things in there to look at. And this is sort of goes to a meta conversation with meta about the conversation with creationists. And it's based on some of the stuff. Brandon Hendrickson is going to be on with me and Scott at noon. And we're going to talk about having impossible conversations with creationists. And also in the beginning, I'm probably going to talk about what Brandon is doing in his work with educating children, which is really important. And I want him to promote that. So that is what's happening here. I got 3 parts. First part is like 8 minutes. Second part's going to be about maybe 15, 20. And then that is another part on evolution, where something really kind of cool happens around the area of acorns and oak trees. And then the third part is going to be a little conversation we had about spirituality and God and what it is to be an atheist for me and stuff like that. Right? So I want to play the video. And I want to know if you can hear the video. And I'm going to mute myself, and hopefully you can hear the video. You ready, Scott?
I'm ready.
You're ready. How do you play the video? Okay. There we go. Okay. Let me know if you can't hear this. And then we'll mute ourselves, and we're going to play the... no, I haven't.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though. The Ford Nucleome Project has really ramped up with tasks. They're finding out that basically there's neighborhoods, okay? It's an organization thing. There are certain neighborhoods where enhancers and promoters are being controlled by region, and not necessarily, ones right next to each other. They could be long, long and short. But there's just like a post office, okay? You can have your postman across the street and won't even take care of your house because that's a different district, even though it's right across the street. So they do that. Then they insulate the other tasks from being able to control those regions. And
right.
they're very tissue specific. That type of organization is something that's, to me, outside the scope of what evolution can do. Because if we want to define evolution for what evolution is, we have to take, unless you want to say that God directed evolution. If you don't want to say God directed evolution, then evolution has to stand on its own merit.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, all of this stuff, these chromosome territories are basically, I think, one of the first discoveries we made. And then we discovered LADs and TADs, and that's Lamin associated domains and topologically associated domains. but I've been doing this molecular biology stuff since about 2000. And all of this stuff was discovered like prior to this. Some of this stuff came up prior, but TADS, topologically oriented domains, came up around 2010. And we started with this new technology.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah,
But
we're
nobody studied
understanding.
them though.
What's
So
that?
let me just say one thing. Let me say one thing really quickly.
Yeah.
Because because what happens a lot is, a lot of times when there's a paper to come out or a discovery that really highlights the complexity of the genome and certain
Yep.
things that would really point to a designer, it just seemed like, a lot of like evolutionists say, oh, we knew about that for a long time. And it
Right.
seemed like they downplay a lot of stuff until it gets to the point where they can't download it. Then they downplay it. Then they have to actually talk about it. But then they have to find some type of association with evolution. I noticed that, man. I mean, it's like,
Oh yeah. That
why
definitely
is that? Why isn't they talking about it beforehand? Why are they waiting until so a paper come out that really talks about it? That but tell me if you agree with this. In all honesty and reality, when there's a discovery that come about that really points to something that might look like it's outside of evolution, they try to find a way to loop evolution into it. They'll put the word evolve with it, and then they'll find a way to really make it point to evolution. Like to me, the epigenome. I don't see how the epigenome points to evolution.
okay. Yeah. Uh,
But go ahead. I talk a lot. You can talk.
well, let me turn that around. Okay. When we find something like the phylogenies, the phylogenetic trees, don't creationists then come up with something and say, oh well, that's the way God did it? I mean, don't you do the same thing? I mean,
Well, I mean,
you have to
uh,
basically, okay, under your model, if something comes up, you have to account for it somehow, right? And and look at our side, right? If something comes up that we observe in biology, we have to work it into the theory, right? We can't just if it's something new we just discovered, we have to say, oh, that's interesting. How does that fit with our hypothesis? But you do the same thing. So I don't think we should sit and shout at each other about how we defend our
no, no, no,
position.
no. I will say this here. I will say this here, and it is a point. But the thing about it is, you know, it really, really fits very well with intelligent design. And this is something that we, creation is talking about for a long time, intelligent design.
Right. Right.
And the grant dollars does not go to proving that God did stuff. Okay. So sometimes a lot of evolution is they want us to conform to their theory and base our beginning starting points on their theory, and then they want us to look at a paper in the literal sense of what the paper is saying, as far as when they make a discovery, okay, and a discovery that's proven through experimentation, okay, then they find a way to say, okay, well, they find a way to loop it to evolution. We don't have to accept your looping, okay? Only thing we have to accept is the data, okay?
Okay.
So, do you understand what I mean by that? They find a way to loop it to evolution. Well, this happened or whatever, like that's here. All we have to accept is what actually happened and if this information is correct. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's like hypothesis patching, right? Or theory patching. So
Okay.
evolution, we're always patching up our theory. Okay, is what you're complaining about, but that's actually what we do. That is science. That's how science works. You patch up the theory every time you find something new. So hypothesis patching is what you're talking about, and you guys do it too, but that's okay. Uh, you guys can do it real easily. All you have to do is say God did it. For us, we got a big problem. We got to figure it out, right? Don't you think
Right,
that's
but
a
the thing
little?
about
What's that?
okay, I agree with what you're saying, but the thing about it is, I think hypothesis patching is a little bit more mild to what's really going on.
Really? Okay. Okay. I don't know. I see it as
I think that's yeah. I just think it's a little bit mild for what's going on because to be honest with you, the more complexity, the different layers of information that come about
yeah.
when you're talking about these tasks, when you're talking about these organizational things, when you're talking about signal transduction, you're talking about cell communication and long range, short range, these interreactions, that all really points to intelligent design.
For you, it does. For me, it doesn't. So we have that difference in how we're thinking, right? So
Right.
we have
Right. And I think that we need to get our philosophies on the table, like, because I understand what you're saying. So we need to get our philosophies on the table. But the thing about it is, how can it not point to intelligent design when it appears to be purposeful, when it appears to be contingent on different factors, when all these factors are contingent and they're internested? How could it not be? How could intelligent design not be a more plausible answer? Now we can say you can always say that our evidence is we don't have we don't see this God.
right.
Okay, you can
Right.
say that. You could say that, but that's going to say what's going to support you. But the more levels of complexity, it points a little bit more clearer to God.
Yeah, I think just the opposite. I think the complexity points to nature.
Are we allowed to talk now? Okay, your lips are moving, but I can't hear anything you're saying. You're muted.
We don't want to pick on them. There's some interesting parts, some interesting different ways to view things and viewing what happened. And I tried to point it out with some of those slides, but we'll get a little more into that. Do you have sound now? Tentesai? What is Tentesai? Good morning, Tentesai. I hope you heard sound now. I wasn't, I was muted. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so it occurred to me that there's some really interesting things that are like a paper comes up. Somebody writes a paper, and there's evidence in the paper, and then the evolutionists look at the paper. Well,
whoa.
My complaint is that the evolutionists are the ones that write the papers, right? We're the ones doing the research.
It's not like there's a department full of classical biologists.
Right.
They do biology and research, and then there's the evolutionist biologists, and they do evolution, and they try to make everything fit into evolution.
Yeah, but I think from
base theory that undergirds all of biology. It's undeniable.
Yeah. I think from his view of how science works and what's going on out in the world around us, out in our contemporary world, right? His view of it and Rebecca's view of it are very different than our view of it. And this is one of those meta conversation things that are getting in our way. We like, what is a hypothesis? What is a theory? How does this hypothesis patching work? Who does it? We both do it. They do it. Like for basically, if you show them chimpanzee and human similarity, they say, oh, well, that's because God had to use the same proteins to create, 5 fingers and stuff. And, so they do hypothesis patching also. So anyway, that's about all I wanted to do in this video. At noon today, we're going to be talking to Brandon Hendrickson, and he has been on Cell's channel, and Cell is teaching him evolution. God forbid.
Yeah, that's kind of makes me laugh when I hear those words put together.
Yeah, and he's very Brandon is he's got a very different angle on all of this, and it's going to be an interesting discussion. And I also hope he tells us about his company, because I've been looking into. He does homeschooling material for I think grade school and high school, or grade school, middle school, and it's some pretty good content. I'm hoping he'll tell us about that too. So, abiogenesis granted in order to argue your position. Let me see. Yeah, we have to separate the concerns. As far as I'm concerned, we can say that God took a big dump truck and backed it up into the ocean and dumped a bunch of single-celled eukaryotic organisms into the ocean. And when we have to draw a line in the sand and start talking about evolution from there forward, or we have to draw a line at where chimpanzees and humans differentiated, or were mice and primates differentiated, or whatever. But you got to pick a starting point, because this is a very complicated topic, and you can't keep talking about abiogenesis when we're trying to talk about what happened after eukaryotes happened. So, and I make this point a little more in the second part of the video I'm going to show with CBrown, and that is on the acorn and the oak tree. But yeah, you can just grant abiogenesis. A lot of old Earth creationists do that. They believe that God intervened at that point and created eukaryotic cells. So I don't see anything wrong with that. We can't talk about the whole damn thing back and forth, moving the goalposts this way and that, right? You gotta pick a point.
Yeah, like with that 4D stuff, I can't pronounce the whole thing. The 4D blah blah.
Nucleome.
What specific field of concern is that? If you were going to say this is the class in college where they cover that, what class would that be in?
That would be eukaryotes forward. Basically, it would be on eukaryotes and multicellular animals.
Eukaryotic development. Yeah, it's like okay, now, so do we have to spend 18 semesters covering all the basics of physics, chemistry,
abiogenesis, right?
Yeah, and abiogenesis to get to that point where we can start talking about this one particular sub? There's a starting point, and you start there.
Okay, if I can grant myself I'm granting you God. I'm saying, okay, God did it. God started the eukaryotes, but from there forward, we're going to talk about evolution.
Plus,
so
every discussion of evolution is not an argument against God.
Right.
It's a discussion of scientific processes.
Yeah, so I can take the position that I believe God dumped a starship full of eukaryotic organisms in single cell into the ocean, and then I'll talk to you about evolution from there on. But sure, take God. It's not a defeater. God is not a defeater of what happened after he dumped the eukaryotes into the ocean. So anyway, I don't want to make this too long. So, certainty exists, 888. Please reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation about that. So let's see. I've not. Well, I've defeated my position as an atheist. No, not really. I mean, I'm only an atheist around one kind of God. If you have an idea of what God did, or creationism or something, I can be an atheist about that, right?
Yeah, and you're not granting God for yourself. You're granting God for the person you're talking to who can't say, okay, let's assume there's not a God. We're saying, okay, let's assume there is a God. That's a hypothetical. Yeah. And that kind of nuance exists.
Yeah, and we're not arguing about atheism and God. We're arguing about evolution. Those are two different topics. They aren't the same topic. Anyway, Scott, I do not want to go any further. Certainty exists. My email, I'll put it in the chat. I'd love you to reach out and we could have a conversation too. And I'm capable of having really polite, normal conversations. Please talk to me. Let's see here at gmail.com. Okay, so I want to end this, Scott. I do not want it to get long. Okay.
All right. Well, I will talk to you around noon-ish.
We will talk at noon. So goodbye, cruel world.
Goodbye.
Oh, it's JG. Okay.